Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome to another episode of Lume Wars. Lume Wars episode 11. Same format but a slight twist re the Contenders today. Normally I try and include a broad range of brands, always a Seiko, usually a luxury watch or two, a mixture of prices, etc, etc. Today it's all AliExpress. This was prompted by the review last month of the Cronos GMT. I was so impressed by the lume on that model that I decided to do an Ali Only Lume Wars edition. Which watch on Ali has the best lume? That is what we will try and find out today. Usual format, 8 watches, 4 quarters, 2 semis and a final to crown the king of lume. And today, for the first time, there's a previous winner hoping to prove it wasn't a fluke the first time around. Let's flip the camera and meet today's contenders. Alright, here are the 8 watches today in their quarter-final pairings. And it's definitely a little bit Noah's Ark. 2 by 2 by 2 by not quite 2. These are some of the best watches that I have reviewed on AliExpress by some of the best brands that are available to purchase on AliExpress. So there's perhaps no surprise that I have doubled up 2 Cronos, 2 San Martins, 2 Steeldives and a couple of outliers. There's a Seestern and an I&W. All watches that have impressed me in their own way. Not a lot of originality on the table, I admit. There are 2 watches that I would describe as originals, the rest very much homages. But hey, this isn't Originality Wars, it's Lume Wars, and that is what it's all about today. And let's look at the Cronos that prompted this review, their GMT. Cronos make outstanding Rolex homages, they really do. The quality that you get here is remarkable for the price that you're paying. This one is about 300-ish. I'll leave links to everything in the description of the video. Fully lume ceramic bezel insert as well, very bright initially. Let's see how it gets on against another Cronos that I highly rate. This is as close as you'll get to the old 6-digit 40mm super case maxi dial Submariners of 2020 and backwards. Again though, this one has a fully lume ceramic bezel insert. But is it brighter than the GMT? We'll find out shortly. This is a San Martin SN044, an original design with a steel bezel and that so hot right now Tiffany dial. You noticed a couple of Tiffany style watches on the table I'm sure earlier on. This one features C3 Superluminova and plenty of it on those hands and indexes. Definitely a dark horse in today's Lume Wars edition. My goodness. Look at this watch. I know, zero originality, it's her Omega through and through, but it is absolutely beautiful. San Martin makes such nice watches. And this one looks for all the world like it costs thousands of dollars when it only in fact costs a couple of hundred. But how's the lume? We shall see. Steeldive Tuna can. This is my most recent pickup from the last AliExpress sale and I was expecting big things because I've had Steeldives on the channel in the past and they have impressed. This one has a printed dial though. Will that be a positive or will it be a negative? You don't have to wait long to find out because it's going up against the Steeldive 1970, their Willard homage. Without a doubt, one of the best watches you can buy for less than $100 today and the previous winner. The mixture of lume on the dial hands and the bezel insert is odd, shall we say, but it gets the job done, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. And this Seestern is quite clearly a Doxa 300 homage that makes the Doxa 300 look really, really overpriced. This one also features a lumed date wheel, again a fantastic touch in a watch costing less than $200. It's going up against very much the David of the bunch, the I&W Carnival, one of the most impressive dress divers that I've reviewed to date for well under 100 as well. And I was quite impressed by the lume on this one. Got that vintage style old radium look, but very well applied. Can it take on the Seestern? Let's find out. Alright, if this is your first Lume Wars, the format is fairly simple. I'm still using my old camera for this. It films in 20-minute bursts. If I can't pick between the 2 watches, if I can't make a call in 20 minutes, I'll do 40 minutes. If I can't call in 40, I'll then move on to 60 and so on. If I'm still talking while you're looking at a blank screen, turn up the brightness on your phone a little bit, that'll probably help. I reckon 20 minutes of my camera is the equivalent of about 4 eyes of human eye, so if these guys are going for an hour, that means it's all night lume. Conversely, if they're fading before 20 minutes, then the lume isn't going to last more than 2 or 3 hours in real world conditions. Getting back to these Cronos then, Obviously both Rolex homages, they're going for that Rolex Chroma-Light look. BGW9, the pale blue, all over the hands, the indices and the bezel inserts for these ones, and they both do very well initially. We'll go to 40 minutes here, but you can already see a pattern. The GMT on the left, the regular three-hander on the right. The three-hander is fading quicker, particularly the hour hand and the minute hand. As always, legibility is about those two hands primarily, so if they're still glowing, doesn't really matter what the rest of the watch is doing. I ran these two to an hour. I've got a new super duper UV torch, which means all of these battles are taking a little bit longer today. I'll slow it back down to 1x after an hour. Yeah, definitely GMT on the left. Not only are the indices brighter, but the hands are brighter, particularly the minute hand. It moves on to the semis. Alright, round two, San Martin versus San Martin. It's the original on the left and that stunning looking Omega homage on the right. For some reason I managed to overlook that one when it came in. You can expect to see a review of that one soon. Different approaches here. C3 on the left, C3 old radium style because it is a kind of vintage style watch on the right. There's usually a price to be paid by using C3 old radium style, and when I turn the speed up it becomes pretty obvious. There is only going to be one winner here. Yeah, that Omega homage may be beautiful, but the lume isn't all that outstanding. We get to the end of the 20 minutes, I slow it down to 1x, easy call this one. The original watch, the 044 on the left is the winner, that's the dark horse, moving on to the semis. Next quarter, and it's Steeldive versus Steeldive. It's the Tuna can on the left and the Willard homage, the 1970 on the right. Look at how bright the hands are on the Willard homage on the 1970. That's really what won it the last Lume Wars. Like I said, if you can still see the two hands, doesn't really matter what the rest of the watch is doing, you can still therefore tell the time. Let's turn the speed up on these two though. Very, very impressive considering both of these watches cost less than $100 and the bezel inserts are still doing a really good job. Towards the end of the 20 minutes, yeah, a pattern is emerging here, but let's give the Tuna can the benefit of the doubt. Let's take it to another 20 minutes. Yeah, the hands on the 1970 on the right are really, really impressive, as is that bezel insert. I'm going to slow it down at 40 minutes. Doesn't take a genius to work out what's going on here. I'm going to give it to the 1970. It moves on to the semis once more. And the final quarter-final, the potluck quarter-final, it's the Seestern Doxa homage with that glowing date wheel, and it really does glow, as do those hands on the left. And the I&W, you can still just make out the brand name being illuminated by the hands and the indices on the right. For a dress diver, that I&W is a very, very impressive piece with its Seiko NH36 day date. And a reasonable amount of lume, not something you always get on Paganis etc. for less than a hunch. Let's turn up the speed up though. Let's separate the wheat from the chaff if we can with these two. Different styles obviously. BGW9 on the left and old radium style on the right. Yeah, BGW9 if well applied will beat old radium every single time. And this time is no different. The hands on the Doxa homage on the Seestern are very, very good. I did run them for another 20 minutes though, just to be sure, just to confirm my suspicions. You can even see that second hand still whizzing away on the Doxa. Let's slow it down to 1x after about 40 minutes. Easy decision this one as well. The I&W doesn't do too badly for itself, but it gets beaten, the Seestern moves on. Okay, quarter final it is then, Cronos versus San Martin. Different approach here, the Cronos having that fully loomed ceramic bezel insert, the San Martin going for a stainless steel look, which in combination with the Tiffany dial is the look du jour, is it not? C3 on the San Martin, you don't really have to do C3 well to get a decent lume on a watch, whereas I think you do have to do BGW9 very well to get decent lume on a watch. The bezel insert clearly is the first thing to fade on the Cronos, much like it did in the previous round. But there's still so little between these two that I decided to take them to another 20 minutes and then to another 20 minutes. That means you are not going to be disappointed by either of these two in real world conditions if you do pick them up. But I'm going to slow it down back to 1x at around the hour mark. Tough call on these two. Both of them doing okay, but I think you'll agree the minute hand on the San Martin looks far, far weaker than the minute hand on the Cronos, and that is only going to get worse. Therefore, I'm giving it to the Cronos. It's moving to the final. But who will it be taking on there? Will it be taking on the Steeldive 1970, all $85 of it, or the $200 plus Seestern? Yeah, the Steeldive, a little bit mismatched. The indices on the dial, not that impressive. I am going to mod one of these soon. I've been claiming I'm going to do it for about 18 months now, but it will happen. Maybe I'll try and find a dial with better lume to match the stunning lume on the hands. Let's turn the speed up on these two. Both of the handsets, very, very impressive. After 20 minutes, there's still nothing much to choose between them. Let's take it to 40. Yeah, the indices on both watches are fading, but that bezel insert on the Steeldive and the hands on the insert look like they are going to win the day here, do they not? Let's push on for another 20 minutes just to be sure. I'll slow it down to 1x at the end. Yeah, again, the Seestern, no disgrace here. The handset, particularly that broad minute hand, are still looking good, but not as good as the Steeldive. The indices are gone, but it's still easy to read. It moves on to the final. So this is it then, the final. The watch that prompted this AliExpress only edition, the Cronos GMT, versus the only AliExpress watch to have won an edition of Lume Wars before, the Steeldive 1970. Two different colours, two different approaches, two slightly different price points. The Steeldive costing about 25% of the Cronos. Let's turn the speed up and see what happens. Well, the bezel insert on the Cronos is the first thing to fade, and the indices on the Steeldive are the first thing to fade. I was impressed with the GMT hand on the Cronos. That hung on very well indeed, as good as the two main other hands and as good as those indices. 20 minutes, impossible to make a decision. 40 minutes, still pretty hard to make a decision. I went all the way to 60 minutes with these two, and then all the way to 120 minutes with these two. As I said, if you're getting to that stage, then you know that you've bought a watch with very good lume. So there we are, the longest head-to-head, an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to slow it back down to regular speed. Have a good look at these two. What do you think? An impressive result from the Cronos on the left there. The indices in particular look like they're going to be glowing long after the hands, unfortunately. The hands on the Steeldive, however, have been the standout of all 8 watches on the table. That's why it won the last round. That is why it's going to win this round. The first watch to win 2 Lume Wars episodes is the Steeldive 1970. So take yet another bow, Steeldive 1970. There really isn't much I could say about this little watch that I haven't already said. It is outstanding for the price. Less than 90 regular price, less than 80 if you can catch it on a sale. The only thing I've done with mine is change to a milled class. That cost me about $8. Maybe I will buy a black one. It would be easier, I think, to mod a black one. Keeping those hands, keeping that bezel insert, but maybe change up the dial, do something a little bit funky. I think this is a must for every budget collection. The fact that it has now won 2 episodes of Lume Wars underlines that. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the Lume Wars format, why not check out a couple of previous installments.